When I give
This AI
some input text, it will
turn everyone's lives into hell.
This is Deltarune Chapter 3's version of the Snowgrave route.
Just much, much worse.
Last time, the severely wounded Toriel turned into an unstoppable murder machine and killed a giant beast. Back at Toriel's house, the evil version of Chris attacked her in the most vicious of ways. They were literally ripping each other apart. The room looked like a crime scene or a horror movie. Everything was soaked in blood. Chris stared down at Toriel with a bizarre smile. His own body could fall apart at any moment, it seemed, but some sinister force held it together. Chris opened his mouth. Enough fun for now. In the blink of an eye, he vanished. Amethyst and Susie were so shocked they couldn't say a word. Still, they knew they had to quickly patch up Toriel, who was sitting on the couch, curled into a ball, losing all hope. Her mind couldn't even process the pain her gaping wounds should be causing. She just sat there. The last thing she remembered was the creature turning to face her, his expression blank, staring at her with a weird little smile. The next she knew, she was sitting on the couch with the most terrifying figure in her life, her caretaker, sitting next to her. "Chris," Toriel groaned. "What have you done to me?"
"I told you. I am sadistic."
Cute. Chris's face was covered in some white goo that floated in the air, like a disgusting white fog. Even the AI can't follow its own story anymore. Some pieces of the substance swirled around in the air.
"I told you that you would be worth the pain."
Chris stood. He made a weird hissing sound and said,
"Hey, Amethyst, little pig, little pig.
Let's see what you taste like."
The rest of the chunks of flesh in his hand drifted up into the air as if floating in a pool of slime.
I can't wait to try my hand at those, Susie.
"Stop, please!" Amethyst cried out in terror. Susie ran to her and began to knead her. Is she giving her a massage? Amethyst's feet wiggled, and a burst of flame shot from her feet. "You stop this!" The ground shook. The ground itself seemed to come apart, as if it were some long-forgotten geological feature that had crumbled and been made into a table. The ground split, with a fiery explosion of acid-covered rubble and bubbling white smoke. The kids took off, running for their lives as they could. Oh my, the apocalypse is here. "Stop! Let me go!" Toriel wailed, but Chris wasn't there. He'd vanished, leaving her to fend for herself. She didn't know how to stop the fire that burned through her body, or stop the flesh that poured out of her, but she'd found a weapon nonetheless. What? She began to throw each of the chunks of flesh at the creatures that swooped down upon her, giving off a sickening crackling sound that seemed to scare them away. She didn't care what it did to them, she just wanted the pain to stop. This is so disgusting. She's burning from the inside, turning her flesh into some sort of goo, and then she throws that stuff at these creatures. Oh, so much gore, we should call her Toriel. The AI has such messed up ideas. Why would you torture Goat Mom like that? "Thank you!" she heard Amethyst shout as she jumped into the fray. The shards of bone that cut into her flesh seemed to give her more strength than she knew she had. Ah, so repugnant! Amethyst is gaining strength when shards cut into her flesh. "Don't worry, little pig. You'll have plenty of chances for revenge later. I'm sure Chris is getting the point by now." The sense of humor? Is that the good thing? She gasped in agony as a small bone pierced her foot. Ah! She saw Susie levitate a chunk of fire and send it smashing into a monster. At least Susie's getting some superpowers without being thrown into a blender. And was Amethyst a pig monster all along? Her screams were heard only by Susie, who kept at her. Her feet were covered in chunks of burning flesh. She didn't even know how she was holding her staff anymore. but she held it with both hands as her last defense. They were coming at her in a swarm. She could tell by their eyes, their mouths, their skin color. That sounds racist. She was surrounded. She was being ripped apart. She didn't know how much longer she could hold on. Chris, I love you. I know this hurts, but it's gonna hurt so much more when you die. Please, don't leave me. I'm sensing some severe brain damage. The only thing Chris ever said to her was, little pig, let's see what you taste like. If that makes you fall in love with someone, you should get higher standards.
Okay,
Chris shouted, and then, with his last ounce of strength, dove off the building with Amethyst following right behind him. Amethyst was torn from her arms, like the skin of an orange had been peeled away from a tomato. The flesh was gone, replaced with chunks of melted and bloody skin. Like something had tried to make a jelly donut out of her, but couldn't quite make it work. Jesus, it just keeps getting worse. And Chris, what? She started to say, but before she could finish her question, something hit her. She fell through darkness and out into a world of solid steel. She hit the ground, skidding on her elbows and knees for a few feet. All she saw was a chain connecting two places. She reached out and grasped the chain. How her arms were torn off! She could feel warmth. The warmth was her. It wasn't blood, it was the liquid warmth that was coursing through her veins. That's literally what blood is! The pain subsided, as if nothing had ever happened. She looked around her and saw a wall of fire surrounding the area. It seemed to be coming from inside. Chris, she called out. Can you hear me? There was no answer. Chris, you can't die, you can't. Then she heard a crackling noise. Oh no, not yet. She heard herself cry out in a painful sob. She knelt down on the concrete, still gripping the chain. Somehow. There! The portal! You have to turn it off! It was too late. A hand, a foot, anything she could have tried fell through. And then she felt herself being pulled through. It was too late. She tried, again and again, but there was no use. She was gone. She felt her energy slowly leaking out, and then she could feel nothing. Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry, she cried. But then she knew she couldn't blame herself anymore. Her only regret was that she was never able to tell Chris how much she loved him. But what a guy! Never does anything half-assed. And he'd never let his little girlfriend go through the portal without him. Good man. Just think. You won! You won! She stopped and laughed maniacally. Then she lay there, laughing to herself for a few moments. Enormous brain damage. It's crazy the AI is bringing up the portal again. Our only hope now is that Susie somehow saves the day. So far the AI really tried to make her as insignificant as possible, but that ends now. Only Susie was left to save them. She looked over to Toriel, who was throwing chunks of her own burnt flesh to defend against the monsters that tried to kill her. It was hard to watch. Susie didn't know whether she should cry or throw up. Then she watched Amethyst get sucked into a portal, with severe brain damage and missing both of her arms.
Shit,
Susie yelled.
What am I supposed to do?
Both of her friends were in nearly hopeless situations. Susie had to make a decision. She was reluctant to help the two monsters in any way, but at the same time, she couldn't just stand by and watch them die. So Amethyst is a monster. Okay, in my headcanon she's a pig now. Toriel looked at her as if she wanted her to do something, and that was enough. There was no other choice. She quickly hopped over to Amethyst, who was slowly and weakly trying to hold on to the charred remains of her torn-off arms. With what? What does she use to hold on to things? Her mouth? Her feet? She grabbed one of them and pulled it towards her. She could feel the face part off, which was incredibly painful, but at the same time relieving. It would heal eventually. There was a good chance Amethyst wouldn't even feel it. It just said it's incredibly painful. Is her face peeling off? AI, will you ever stop? Toriel stared in horror. She dropped the rest of her body to help her friend. It was so messy. As Toriel helped pull the little arms back together, they got in a tug of war for who was stronger. The monster won and grabbed the other arm. Toriel had no chance but to let go, which Amethyst seemed to appreciate. Toriel, this is not the time to play tug of war with Amethyst's burned arms. In fact, there's never the time to do that. As she kept hold of the arm, Amethyst closed her eyes, and her tiny eyes widened in fear. She then let go and dropped the arm, only to wince in pain. "Oh, oh, oh." Toriel rushed over and dropped to her knees beside her. "It's all right," she whispered to her. "Don't cry." "Why would you help me?" Amethyst snapped at her. "Why would you even want to help me? You, who's so busy being a powerful witch, why would you even care?" "Oh," Toriel said. "You must have been brain damaged." Wait, you think she has brain damage because she criticized you and not all the bullshit that happened before? Give me a break. You said yourself that your power won't work on someone so young. You're too young. Oh. Amethyst's mouth twisted into a grimace. Did you think I was doing this on my own? I was an idiot, she muttered. I didn't think about anything except what I needed to do. I should have done better. I should have figured this out before. She paused for a moment. I would be dead by now if it weren't for you. Well, that's alright, Toriel said. I've got a little something up my sleeve too. She suddenly raised her voice to a loud, terrifying shout. When someone found you, we'll be here, Toriel yelled. There's no time to be worried about death now. Toriel kept up the shouting for a few moments and the monster nodded. Well, I guess I'm getting better at it, she said quietly. Toriel sighed. I know, she said. It's not your fault. I know that. I just wish. Amethyst, for the first time since she was found, looked up at her. Her eyes sparkled and she smiled weakly. Thank you, she said. Toriel nodded. Now you just hold on. I'll do my best. Thanks, Amethyst whispered. The eye threw Susie to the sidelines again. She's important too, damn it. How were they not dead yet? At this point, both of them were nothing but burnt corpses. Toriel was missing chunks of flesh while Amethyst had lost her arms. Still, Toriel was able to solace Amethyst, as if their immense willpower was magically keeping their bodies alive. Susie felt like she was losing her mind. She tried really hard to focus. Both of her friends needed help quickly, but she didn't even know where the portal had brought them. Amethyst breathed heavily. I think we are in Foss, Amethyst said. Toriel smiled. It's alright, child. Foss is an often visited place. It's good to see you. Is that where the portal was? Amethyst asked. Toriel nodded. It is, child. You are lucky to be alive. Lucky? Asked Susie. She suddenly felt a wave of lightness inside of her. She tried to control it but couldn't. She was falling. We made it to Voss, whispered Toriel. There's nothing else we can do but keep going. For your sake, we hope you're right. A soft white glow formed in Susie's hands. She held the portal in her hands, just like Amethyst had. Is that it? Asked Amethyst. Susie nodded. How do you know it's safe? Asked Amethyst. Toriel grinned. Because your friends aren't dead yet. They may be still, but I don't think they are. Oh, Susie now has a pocket-sized portal to Foss. That sounds very useful. Now that we are in Foss, we can search for the Charlight technology and finally be safe from those monsters, Amethyst said, trying to smile with her splintered face. Susie got really angry. Forget that stupid technology. You two need some serious care. You've lost your freaking arms, Amethyst, damn it. Susie, Toriel attempted to calm her down. To no avail. Susie yelled louder, getting all emotional. You two are as good as dead. I'm not letting you go on a pointless suicide mission. Screw this. Screw all of this. I only care about your survival. Nothing else matters in the slightest. Toriel was really touched. What had been her daughter's most powerful expression became the most desperate one. The AI keeps bringing it up. Toriel really adopted like half of the cast.
Don't make me ask for your mind or anything like that.
She screamed. You would never do that. You know you wouldn't. Amethyst tried to comfort her, but Susie was already shaking.
I would do it in a second if it would give you any chance of being safe. I would do it in a second. And don't you dare think that you would somehow get your way. Of course I'm saying you'll die if we don't get that thing.
She scolded Toriel. With Susie's anger finally released, Toriel reached her limit.
Shut up,
she yelled, taking her daughter in her arms and looking her in the eyes.
I didn't make this choice for you. You made it. This is your call, and it has nothing to do with me. I love you, Amethyst.
She tried to say, but she couldn't.
Why is there no love for Susie?
Tears were rolling down her cheeks, and Toriel didn't understand why. How could Amethyst have such problems when she had everything? Mom, what's wrong with you? Amethyst asked in an even more worried voice. Toriel didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to tell her daughter that she was getting old and soon she would lose everything, that she couldn't protect Amethyst anymore.
Please, Mom, don't worry, Amethyst. I won't leave you. I'm right here,
Toriel said with a fake, reassuring smile, hoping she would start to feel better. But she didn't.
I'm not scared,
she cried.
I'm scared that I'm gonna have to leave you. I'm scared you're going to have to get on your own.
A little bit later, a heavy sigh escaped Toriel's mouth.
I don't know how, but I'm gonna find this Starlight technology and make everything better, I promise,
she said, tearing up once more.
I'll do everything I can.
Susie sighed heavily and made a very annoyed face.
Looks like you're both brain dead.
She lifted both of them and put one on each of her shoulders. Amethyst and Toriel kicked and screamed, but the more they struggled, the stronger Susie's grip got.
I'll carry you to a hospital. Or a padded cell. Haven't fully decided yet.
Well, this part was insane from start to finish. I have no idea how this story is supposed to continue, but make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to find out what the AI comes up with. See you in the next part.